But I would look at it like this: the Eagles made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't like Jalen's undrafted free agent who had a couple good games and bad games. The Eagles got to the playoffs, which that was quite an accomplishment last year because nobody thought the Eagles were going to make the playoffs last year.
To the Seth Joyner Show. The Eagles start off the season with a W, 38-35 over the Detroit Lions, but are we satisfied? How they won. Jalen Hurts, under heavy pressure early, ran 17 times while Devontae Smith had 0 catches and A.J. Brown had 10. On the defensive side, seems like the same old defense, just with better players. Devontae Swift made Swift cheese out of the run defense. The pass rush was non-existent all day, and the coverage was soft and passive, much like always, so to speak. Listen, he thinks that he knows football, that he could play football, but I know better. I beg to differ. He's one of the most respected and knowledgeable voices in all of sports. Please help me welcome to the show, Balls Charkley. Come on, Charles. I just had to. It was.
What's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Man, I like it. I'm glad to be on your show. Congratulations.
Always good to see you, man.
That was stressful Sunday.
Yeah, it was stressful, and I tell you what, it didn't have to be. Yeah. And listen, you know what it's like to play in this city, and what the fans and what the media are like. I just want to get your take on a couple of things when you talk about Jalen Hurts. Talk to me and tell me what you think about Jalen Hurts, because everyone's talking about how he ran the ball too much, so on and so forth. And listen, at the end of the day, he was under tremendous pressure. And I think a lot of the runs that he had to get out.
Yeah, I was happy for Jalen. Clearly, he's on a tremendous stretch this year. This is kind of like a one-year make-or-break deal with all the weapons. AJ was fantastic. With all the weapons they brought in, all the pressure's going to be on Jalen to make it work. Listen, if you're not happy scoring 38 points, something wrong with you. I mean, I was really because he's such a great kid.
Right.
You want to really pull for him. But if you looked at that game, and I watched the entire game, if you're not happy putting up 38 on the road, and first I always tell people that, Steph, this, early the season, you have no idea what the hell going to happen.
Right.
Especially now. I mean, these guys don't play a single play during the preseason. You got no continuance. You don't know. You can't practice. No matter what you do in practice, going on the road in a hostile environment, there's nothing you can do to prepare for that.
Right.
You look at the Rams last Thursday, you're like, yeah, that team didn't play any games in the preseason.
Right.
And you saw that. You saw that in all the games Sunday. So I was really proud of them putting that game out.
Well, listen, you've got this camp. There are people in Philadelphia that believe that Jalen Hurts can't be the guy. There's people in Philadelphia that's pulling for him to be the guy. And the problem when you play a team like the Detroit Lions, if they would have just blown them out and Jalen Hurts would have thrown for 300 yards, everybody would have said, oh, but it's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So it's almost a double-edged sword. I thought that he stood in the pocket, made some great throws. I thought that he ran when he needed to. Just the other side of the ball didn't match up, to what he did and what they did on the other side of the football.
Well, unfortunately, we live in this 24-hour news cycle. We got all these clowns on television in the morning. They make you think what you do. Like everything's a day. Everything's something new every single day, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I would look at it like this: the Eagles made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't like Jalen's undrafted free agent who had a couple good games and bad games. The Eagles got to the playoffs, which that was quite an accomplishment last year because nobody thought the Eagles were going to make the playoffs last year. But now, going out and getting AJ, I'm excited to meet him. I never met him. All the other pieces they brought in, they had a great draft. So listen, clearly they got to make the playoffs again. Clearly they are the favorite in the division. Right now, since Dak is out, they're the heavy favorite in the division.
No doubt about it.
So listen, that's unfortunate, the 24-hour news cycle we live in. But you know what? That was an NFL team they beat. Anytime you beat an NFL team, that's all that matters is a W.
Thank you. Thank you. Because, you know, I have these types of conversations with people all the time. I'm like, there's only 1,696 players. That's 53 guys on each roster in the NFL. If you make it to that level, guess what? You are an elite level football player. Now, what the organization do with the players that they got, that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you're on a roster, it's almost like basketball. If you're on a roster, you can play. I
tell everybody, the number 12 player in the NBA is a hell of a player. Now, is he as good as LeBron and KD and Joel and Jane? No. But if he went back to college right now, he'd be coming out after 1 year and being a lottery pick. Right. That's most guys on an NBA team. We got 12 players on the team. The number 11, 12 guy could go back to college right now, and people saying, should we take him in the lottery or the second round? That's how good the players are. But I never get caught up in the noise. I call it noise. Hey, man, they won an NFL game. You got to give them. Listen, I got to tell you something. I watched that Hard Knocks thing. I love Dan Campbell. I love me some Dan Campbell. I've never met him, but watching him, and I saw Aaron Glenn, I saw our boy Deuce Staley.
Right.
Like, man, they're trying hard. Yeah. And that's all you can do. Yeah. I mean, because your job as a coach is like, how can I make my players better? The Detroit Lions, even though the Eagles won, I think the Lions got to be proud, because there was probably 3 or 4 times in that game when the Eagles went up 3 touchdowns, you're like, oh, they're going to pack it in now. But they kept grinding. That's all hats off to the kudos to Deuce and Dan.
There's no doubt about it. But when you think about the defensive side of the ball, and this is what's problematic for me. They went out and spent a lot of money on the defensive side. They went and they drafted, some really good players on the defensive side. And you've got all of these players that now everyone talks about. Now the defense can be aggressive. When you go back and you look at the era of defense in Philadelphia, you've got, Buddy Ryan, Bud Carson, Jim Johnson. You got Ray Rhodes. You got this history of aggressive defenses, but yet we play the most passive defense of anybody that you see in the league, and it's not Philadelphia, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, my favorite coach all time is Buddy Ryan. I love Dick Vermeer, but Buddy Ryan's my favorite coach because of guys like you. When I was around you, Byron Evans, Eric Allen, Jerome Brown, all these guys, y'all talk about how much y'all love Buddy Ryan. I say, hey, if somebody love Buddy, if a player's love a coach, he's loved. Right. And you go back, I saw the story about Mike Singletary and Buddy Ryan. I'm like, man, I said, listen, there's a lot of noise and BS behind the scenes, but when players say, I love our coach, I know it's true. The thing that was disappointing to me watching that game, you said in your opening, you got better players and you're still playing passive. When you're up 3 touchdowns, the team can't run the ball. They got to throw it. That's your chance to be aggressive. Not often in a sporting event like, well, they got to throw the ball. They're down 3 touchdowns. We're in the 4th quarter. That's the time like they got to throw it. Let's just unleash the dogs on them. So I thought they were a little bit passive, and because you just can't let a team. Because that game actually came down to the last minute. And when you're up 3 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, the game should be over.
Should have been over in the 3rd quarter. Yeah. Chuck, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Coming up, former Vikings wide receiver and Hall of Famer Chris Carter joins me to break down the Monday night Vikings versus Eagles matchup. Special thanks to our show sponsor, Bridgeview Partners. Bridgeview Partners specialize in IT service management and helping businesses separate from their competition. Go to bridgeviewpartners.com and let them know Seth Joyner sent you.